Your host, Starlet Henderson, here with this episode's thought leader, Brad Axelrad from FaceYourDragon.com. How are you doing today, Brad?
Doing awesome.
I'm glad you're here. Thank you. Face Your Dragon. I don't know. There could be a ton of questions about that, or it could be like no question about what you do. So tell us what you do.
Well, the Face Your Dragon platform kind of derived itself from producing almost 200 live events with some of the biggest thought and business leaders on the planet in Orange County. And what I recognized throughout the years of being in transformation and being a founding member of the Association of Transformational Leaders in Southern California for a decade is there's a lot of fears that surface for folks that want to get out and share a message or get interviewed like this or create a podcast or become a coach. And I came up with 5 main fears that get in the way of people sharing their message or creating the transformation they want to in the world. So that's basically it.
I love this idea of the fact that there's 5, like that we can figure out what they are, which means we can figure out how to circumvent them.
Yeah, well, it's all about facing your things, right? We can circumvent them, we can slay them, we can face them. I think it's really important to first get awareness around what they are, and then. But what I found, it's these main 5 that really keep us stuck.
So you did this for years. You were working with thought leaders, putting them on stage, putting them in front of audiences, identifying that, this guy, this girl, this person, there's 5 things that are bugging all of them.
That's exactly right. All the attendees, the people I've coached and consulted throughout the years, thousands of people, these are pretty common for most of them.
Do you want to give us the, top 2 or 3, or all 5 of them just as equally kind of?
I'll rip through them real quickly. That you'll be found out as an imposter or fraud. Big one. So the imposter syndrome, that when you put yourself out there, people won't want what you're offering.
They poke holes at it, right?
Yeah. That you'll never have the courage to charge what you know you're worth, so you don't charge what you should. Drop your fees, get scared when you're going for a sale. That your tribe won't get you or understand the difference you can make for them. That's another. We can go into these more if you want. That if you do achieve the dream, your personal life will suffer or you'll get criticized. So we could dive into each of those if you want, or wherever you want to go.
Well, I know the one that jumps out at me, right, is that balance between personal and professional, right? And our brand. And like, if you got to, to do well in one, the other one has to suffer. I mean, that one jumps out at me. And of course, the imposter syndrome too. Everybody's talking about that lately.
Yeah, that's always been there. But I do want to speak to the dream. If you achieve the dream, whatever this fantasy is that we have as thought leaders, that we're going to be on stage speaking in front of 20,000 people, or we're going to have a book of business and have 500 clients or 500 attendees or whatever it is. We can get criticized, but once we go public and start sharing a message and have our unique, distinct way of bringing our personal life story and all these things that are kind of scary, we can get criticized, or you never know what's going to come out of the woodwork. And that can keep people stuck from taking action and moving their life and business forward.
Right. Yeah. You can't get vulnerable.
If we're living in fear, it's pretty hard to have fear and love at the same time. They just don't like to coexist.
For sure. Yeah. So love a little bit more, fear a little bit less. And you're helping other coaches do this now that you've gone through, you've identified these things, and you're helping people face their dragon.
It's a big part of it. Most of what's happening in the thought leader space, we're focused on tactics. So, and we do lots of that, right? Podcasts, interviews. I had a podcast. My first guest was Don Miguel Ruiz, the 4 Agreements. Second guest was Gay Hendricks. I started with the top, my favorite friends and thought leaders in the world, and had, JP Sears, Ariel Ford, lots of other people on the podcast. But the thing that keeps most of us stuck is just, who am I to do this? Who says that I've got the skills or the tactics to do this? But what I wanted to say real quickly is that we focus a lot on tactics. So marketing tactics. We really need to focus on the mindset first. That's so important to understand what's keeping us stuck from actually building it, sharing it, in bringing investment money in to amplify it. Like all the fears of failure, the fears of I'm not good enough, who am I to do this? Those are very present for a lot of people.
And so you're helping people face that, and give us a good success story. Someone you've walked through, like identified that they had one of these five or all five, and they're working through that with you right now?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to answer that, and I'll start it with this, is that people say, well, Brad, how do you help people face their dragon? I say, well, I help them build a business. And they go, oh, okay. So they instantly get it, right? Because building a business is going to bring up every freaking thing, narrative, story, fear that you have. So I've worked with many people throughout the years, put many, many people on the stages. I think of Katrina Starsinskaya. She's crushing it in life right
Mhm.
now. I've worked with her. Working with a doctor couple now in Newport Beach is a really exciting client. And for the last year or so, we've been building a really beautiful funnel that's taking their legacy work. He's a stem cell and anti-aging doctor. They've been married almost 50 years.
Wow.
She's a PhD psychotherapist in Newport Beach, and we're helping them build their entire legacy work with courses and funnels. We're writing a book. It's called Ageless Love. And so all the brand components, the marketing components, that's going to be a big one. I'm really very excited about what we're building, and excited to report back when we crush it for them.
That sounds like a really interesting case, because you're talking about the markers that people think that they need to achieve before they're thought leaders, right? A 50-year marriage, a PhD, a doctor. And I'm like, I mean, if they're having issues, who am I to do anything?
They're relationship coaches, and we're going through a lot of their copy and extracting stories from where they've had breakdowns in relationship. And we all have it. We all have
Yeah,
challenges. We all have fears. Everyone's got it. Nobody's immune to it. And that's what we need to understand and find compassion, find care and love for the challenges. We do the strong, tough thing, like we were talking about before we got
right.
on this
Yeah.
interview. Like yesterday, I had a really tough day, toughest I've had in a long time. And that's just part of it, right? But we got to have the courage to face it, to feel it, to heal it. And that's part of the work we do.
Sure.
One thing I want to say real quickly is that most of my clients, I have them do like a 90-day detox, a 90-day celibacy, 90-day sober, just go all the way in so you can feel everything, have it all surface, and then learn to use all of that energy for your purpose instead of having it keep you in freeze or flight mode or
Right.
fight mode. Use it to your advantage.
Got it. So I was getting ready to ask what your secret sauce is. That sounds pretty powerful.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, it does sound like it. So,
Yeah.
and also thought leadership. We talked about that, but you haven't given us your definition. So when you're talking about thought leadership, what is that? What does being that mean to you?
I think the simplest answer, it's the person. That's such a good question. It's the person that's had the courage to face their darkest night of the soul. Their
Mm,
dark night of the soul has been thrust upon them. We've all had that one time when we're deep in the pit. I love the hero's journey. A lot
right.
of the work that I do is based on Joseph Campbell's work and Taoism and neuroscience and plant medicine and quantum physics. That's really what the whole brand encapsulates. And but being a thought leader is someone who's done the work, who is really deeply has reverence for the work.
Yeah.
There's a resonance and a reverence, but in true humility, the awareness that we're all in this together. We're all in the dark night of the soul. The hero's journey is present for all of us, and they've taken that work and they've brought back the elixir from a deep place of reverence and humility and love, not from a place of ego, look at me on stage guy, right? Like that,
Got
we're
it.
kind of moved through a lot of that. So it's really a deep vulnerability and a sincerity and humility.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's kind of just touches back to that story of the doctor couple you were talking about, is that, each of us need to recognize that we all have these dragons, and, bringing compassionate to the work and to yourself is, I mean, sounds like step number one to me.
The first step in our 3-step process is find your fear.
Hmm.
So you're 100% right. We've got to have the courage to go sort of excavating around and find it. What is it really? We think it's this, it's not.
Yeah.
And then the second step is to face it. And the third step is to use it. We don't want to slay it. We want to leverage it. It's
Use
about
it as
leveraging that. Like right now, I'm a little bit uppity. I've been interviewed 4 times in the last couple of weeks, but I still get excited every time I'm on stage or I'm getting interviewed. And I've got to breathe, but I want to use this excitement, not let it freak me out or put me into anxiety, but like leverage all this, the biochemicals that are happening for our benefit.
Right. Yeah. Understand it's there for a reason. And it's not to keep us off stage, but to, endure through that time on stage or through the
Well
stuff.
said. Yeah, well
Yeah.
said.
I have to remember that. Have to
So do
remind
I.
myself every day. What is your hero's journey or those couple, that darker journey that brought you to what you're doing for others now?
Yeah, the defining moment was, well, I was living in Orange County, California. I'd moved from Northern California down to Orange County, and I was like, this is like heaven. I'm driving around in the BMW convertible. I had it all, the motorcycles, the homes, I'm
Sunshine.
all the stuff,
Yes.
and all the indulgent stuff. I'm in my, I don't know, 20s and 30s and early 30s. And I got a call from my mom saying, hey, Brad, your dad
Mm,
couldn't find his way home last night. I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. What do you mean? No, there might be something wrong with your dad. And so fast forward, we find out he had a golf ball sized tumor in his brain in 2005. And they gave him up to a year to live. He passed in 4 short months. And I'm noticing some sadness around that as I'm bringing it around. I'm really in touch with my
yeah.
emotions
Yeah.
anyway since yesterday, like I mentioned. But that was the defining moment for me that realized self-indulgence doesn't work anymore. And you can't social media your pain away, sex it away, pornography, whatever it is, drugs, travel, shopping, all the things we do to try to numb ourselves out and distract ourselves from our deepest calling and our deepest purpose. And he passed, and that changed everything.
Yeah.
That was it. I knew there was something had to change in my life, and that was in 2005. And ever since then, I've been deep in the work, both as facilitator and as a participant.
Right. Yeah.
So
You're doing your own healing. And right. I mean, that is such an important lesson that time is precious and it takes, I'm sorry to hear about your dad and especially the short time, those year-long prognoses that are cut shorter are difficult. So yeah. Just you face that right up front, that mortality, that fear.
that's what I talk about. It. I've been published in a couple books, and I talk about that. It's facing my own mortality, and I talk about the angel of death in the most recent book, and that comes from Don Miguel Ruiz's work, the Four Agreements,
Mhm.
Fifth Agreement. That comes from his work, and it's really about recognizing that death is knocking at your door, and we better wake up to the possibility of what life is right in front of us, because it can come out of nowhere.
Yeah. And we don't choose, I mean, we think we're choosing, right? The TV, the car, the location, and we're just, yeah.
Yeah, I'm in Palm Springs right now. I should turn it around. I'm looking at a golf course, and but I'm still somewhat chasing that at some point. But
Yeah.
recognizing that the deep happiness doesn't come from external things.
Here, yeah, and we're all human. So, Brad, can I get a book recommendation from you? I mean, I hate to do that 180, but we always like to give our audience a book recommendation. You've mentioned the Four Agreements a couple times, but off the cuff, a book that's impacted your life and your work.
Well, for sure, the Four Agreements, that's a must. I would recommend any of Miguel's work or his
Mhm.
son's work. The Fifth Agreement's really good. I'm going to rattle a couple off. I think they're important. The Mastery of Love by Miguel again, Don Miguel.
Mhm.
That is a masterpiece at understanding a lot of what we're talking about here, getting in touch with the angel of death, fear, getting in touch with our own purpose, our deepest meaning in life, and really recognizing that we do create a lot of our own situation and drama and pain in our lives, and we can also get ourselves out of that if we're willing to face it and recognize that life is pretty short.
Yeah, so it sounds like love is the elixir in that case that you
Love
were talking
is the elixir. That's
about. Love is
exactly
the
right.
elixir.
Compassion and love.
Sure. What a fabulous note to end on. Brad, I'd love for you to tell our audience how they can find you if they want to work for or listen to your podcast.
So the best website is faceyourdragon.com. I've got the podcasts are listed there.
Mhm.
There's also a quiz you can take. The couragequiz.com will take you right there, but it's also on the Face Your Dragon page. And you'll be able to understand and discover the number one hidden fear stopping you from earning what you're worth. It'll help you get really clear on which one of these fears is kind of running you and what to do about it.
Got it. So the one of those five, which one's going to be the top in each individual who takes the quiz?
And yep, one of those five and why. It's exactly right.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent work. Thanks for all that you're doing in the world and congratulations. Just I think like I said before, when we were off camera to go from just a really sad day yesterday and then showing up and could just keep doing the work.
What else are we going to do? We don't have a choice, right? We could sulk around, but we gotta
Not if
rebound.
you're
It's all
thinking,
about
yeah.
that's what I'm learning. It's all about resilience at this stage. It just overall in life. I mean, with COVID and everything else, it's all about resilience.
Yeah. Yep. Turning that self around and bringing a little bit of love into being. So thanks again, Brad. Thanks for your time and for your thoughts.
Thanks for having me. It was great to be here.